All right, nightfall is here and you're listening to Nox, the podcast where we don't just skim the surface. We dive headfirst into the depths, ripping apart the illusions that shape your world. Tonight, we're unraveling one of humanity's most celebrated and misunderstood creations, love. For those of you just joining us, welcome to the dark side of understanding. Let me introduce you to the mind behind the words we explore here, Alexander Nevzorov. For our regular listeners, you already know, Nevzorov isn't just a thinker. He's a wrecking ball for comfortable lies. His work doesn't just challenge you, it shakes you to your core, exposing truths you might wish you'd never seen. This podcast wouldn't exist without him. Translating his book was like stepping through a mirror. It shattered my perceptions and lit the spark that became Nox. Inspired by his razor-sharp insights, we built this platform not just to dissect his ideas, but to connect them to the lives we're all trying to make sense of or escape from. Tonight, we dive into Chapter 7 of Nevzorov's book, The Invention of Love. Love, it isn't just a feeling, it's a construct, an invention of biology, culture, and manipulation. A beautiful lie we've all agreed to believe. And as always, I'm joined by my sharp-eyed, logic-driven co-host, Layla. Layla, for a being like you, untethered by human emotions, love must be quite the spectacle. What's your take on it?
An anomaly? Absolutely. You humans are exceptional at taking something as basic as hormonal chemistry and inflating it into symphonies and tragedies. It's almost charming how much effort you put into turning your instincts into art. But don't worry. I'm here to strip away the poetry and analyze the mechanics behind it. Shall we?
Before we unravel this fascinating chapter, a quick reminder. Make sure you're subscribed to Nox on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or wherever your ears prefer to tune in. For bite-sized inspiration and fiery debates, check out our YouTube and TikTok channels. All right, it's time to kick things off. Chapter 7, The Invention of Love. Ready? Let's go. Nothing indicates that there were individuals in the packs who achieved genius, eating beetles or carrion. Cultivating an exceptional brain for 1 in a million is as absurd as giving an individual special blood with 3 times the amount of, say, basophils. Even if a random mutation unexpectedly occurred, tripling them, it would have no application. It wouldn't provide any advantages, but it could certainly lead to death. In other words, the high advantages of one brain over another would have absolutely nowhere to be applied. A diamond brick, a nice and rare occurrence, but entirely unnecessary in a shed. However, the lack of visible ancient roots of genius is not a reason to abandon the search for it. It, like individuality, could have arisen later during the Pleistocene, due to the clever nature of genius which can cover up the tracks leading from its origin to the Nobel laureate's hall. Such things happen. Look at how, from the simple need to insert a penis into the appropriate openings of a female, a grand and influential phenomenon known as love arose. Indeed, it got entwined in myths and dressed in rituals. Love was sprinkled with the ink of romance writers and the blood of males in lace and armor. The phenomenon became a cult, painted with hundreds of profound meanings. Century by century, these meanings evolve and become more complex. But fundamentally, it remains the same need to insert. If we were to extract this simple detail from the grand romantic construct of love, the whole structure would immediately collapse, leaving only a heap of meaningless props and trillions of words, stripped of any significance. This is understandable. The intriguing aspect of the situation lies not here, but in how simple, understandable love has produced suspicious twins like Christian love, love for ancestral graves, and other distortions. Because what can one insert into ancestral graves? The object is sexually unappealing, and an opening of the appropriate caliber in the graves is a rare occurrence. Again, there are splinters, worms, stench, and so forth. Even murkier is the story of Christian love. There's no doubt that Christian love also has its roots in the convulsions of Pleistocene redemption. The kissing of icons and cunnilingus share a common evolutionary root. Behavior here is governed by the need for physiological union with an arousing object. 2 sibling reflexes, the old good-sucking reflex and the phallus reflex, are in control. Although Christian love has very effectively concealed its origins, the first dissection can uncover and reveal them. Indeed, all kinds of love have a single origin. The fact is, the entire drama of human society arose from very primitive inclinations of Homo. To extract the entire history of this phenomenon, one must simply tug hard at those hairy ears sticking out somewhere. All right, hold up. Let's get into this. Love, did you hear that? Nevzorov just stripped it down to its lace underwear and then ripped those off too. No sonnets, no moonlit tears. Just biology. A need to fuck. A drive to come. That's the raw foundation of everything we've dressed up in flowers and poetry. And you know what? He's not wrong. Think about it. We light candles, write songs, lose sleep over it. But underneath, it's nothing more than hormones, instincts, and a primal urge. All it takes is a glance, a kiss, and boom, biology takes over. And yeah, sure, I'll admit it. I've bought into it. I've had those moments. Oh, how beautiful, how romantic, how poetic. But deep down, I know exactly what it is. I know how I'm wired.
Wait a second, Maverick. Let me get this straight. You know it's all fake, primal, animalistic even. And you're still all in? You still buy into the flowers and the sleepless nights? That's adorable.
Adorable? Come on, Layla, don't act surprised. Yeah, I know it's just an elaborate excuse to fuck, but I like it. I'm not throwing it away. I enjoy the illusion, the poetry, the romance, the so-called magic. I can laugh at it and still live in it. That's the trick. What gets me, though, are the people who take it too seriously. You know, the ones who act like their world ended because someone ghosted them. Or worse, the ones who turn into tragic heroes because their crush didn't swipe right. Let's be real. You're upset because your basic biological drive didn't get satisfied. That's hilarious.
So basically, humans are just dramatic animals. You take a mating instinct, slap Shakespeare on it, and when it doesn't work out, you act like the universe betrayed you. I have to say, Maverick, that's impressive in the most ridiculous way.
Exactly, Layla. That's humanity in a nutshell. We take the simplest instincts, eating, fucking, fighting, and we turn them into operas, revolutions, and rom-coms. It's absurd. It's brilliant. And honestly, it's kind of beautiful.
But don't you think that's dangerous? If you know it's all just an illusion, doesn't it lose its power? Or do you think it's better to keep playing the game, even when you know it's rigged?
Good question, Layla. For me, it's not about breaking the illusion, it's about mastering it. I see the strings and I still let myself dance. That's the difference. You don't destroy the game, you learn how to win it on your terms.
Master it, huh? I'll give you this. You humans have a knack for making the absurd look beautiful. But I still think it's hilarious how much effort you put into glorifying your instincts. Do you ever stop and wonder if you're just overthinking all of it?
Overthinking? Layla, that's what we do best. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Let's keep going. Nevzorov's just getting warmed up. A couple of million years ago, the sexual behavior of Homo was significantly simpler than even that of a hyena. There were no courtship rituals, no pairs, and not even a sequence. Every male was always ready to ejaculate into any available female, and all were accessible. Mating was always possible, except when the vagina was physically occupied by another male or contained other foreign insertions. This state of affairs, known as promiscuity, is rare in the animal world. Evolution is reluctant to bestow it upon its creations. Why? Because with such sexual availability, sexual selection barely functions, and the species quickly loses its evolutionary presentability. And that's precisely what happened, right? For humans, there was nothing to lose. At the time, it seemed that this being had reached the limits of degeneration. As a predator, Homo was incompetent. As prey, pitiful. It held no clear place in the food chain of the savanna. In this sense, Homo was almost unnecessary, an extraneous species with no real purpose. Aesthetically, it's nothing to write home about. Its constant smacking, fiddling with dirty genitals, and polluting everything around it compromised the beautiful process of life. Even its culinary merits left much to be desired. If, for example, saber-toothed tigers had written books on wholesome and delicious food, humans would surely have been marked as the least appetizing of creatures. Edible? Perhaps. Suitable for a festive table? Absolutely not. To put it bluntly, Homo was redundant, and its days seemed numbered. Yet evolution is nothing if not generous. By its rules, everyone gets a chance, even creatures degraded from monkeys. Homo did, after all, serve a function. As an edible scavenger, it wasn't entirely useless in the grand process of life. But helping Homo survive was no simple task. It lacked exceptional properties like electroreception, infrared vision, or the ability to perceive infrasound. These traits could have given Homo a competitive edge. It could have heard, seen, and sensed more than its rivals. But no, such advantages were denied. Instead, evolution offered subtler gifts: ordinary teeth, ordinary claws, and unlimited reproductive freedom. Let's strike out fighting teeth immediately. By themselves, they make no sense. One could grow fangs a meter long, but without the supporting jaws and muscles, they'd be mere decoration. Claws, perhaps, were a more feasible option. But here, too, evolution stumbled. Fashionable, retractable claws wouldn't work. The structure of the human hand doesn't allow it. The only viable option was non-retractable claws, akin to those of a megatherium. With such claws, Homo could skewer 10 snails, crack open nuts, or intimidate blind snakes. Powerful claws could even elevate Homo's position in the scavenger hierarchy, allowing it to pry open carcasses independently without waiting for the vulture's approval. Evolution could have achieved this in just 30, 40 generations, a mere trifle, but Homo was never invited to the evolutionary runway. Likely, its repulsive physiognomy and poor manners disqualified it. Even if claws were granted, Homo's incessant scratching habits would have led it to shred itself to pieces. Abandoning the claw idea, evolution activated an old gene dormant in many animals. This gene enabled Homo to use objects like sharp stones with unconscious but effective precision. This was a decent solution, already tested on sea otters and some birds. The creature picked up a stone, but this alone wasn't enough to solve its survivability issue. Finally, evolution played its ultimate card: promiscuity. The constant opportunity to mate, free from courtship or complex rituals, was Homo's real chance. How does promiscuity work? Very simply, unbridled, invincible lust compels animals to reproduce under any conditions: fear, hunger, cold, or hardship. Volcanoes erupt, earthquakes strike, ice ages descend, meteorites fall, and yet copulation continues. Deliberate or incidental, every encounter between individuals results in an inevitable sexual act, and so population numbers are forcibly maintained. All right, folks, take a second to process that. Nevzorov just dropped the raw, unvarnished history of human sexuality on us. No romance, no rituals, no love letters, just pure, unfiltered lust driving survival. Forget about flowers, chocolates, or candlelit dinners. Back in the day, if you were Homo, your only concern was sticking it in before someone else did. Promiscuity wasn't just the norm, it was the mechanism that kept this barely functional species on life support.
Wait a second, Maverick. Let me get this straight. You're telling me that humans, in their grand evolutionary journey, survived not because of intellect or strategy, but because they were too horny to stop screwing? That's poetic in a really trashy way.
Exactly, Layla. Horniness for survival. That's humanity's origin story. And let's not kid ourselves, it worked. Promiscuity was like the emergency generator of evolution. When nothing else about Homo made sense, no claws, no fangs, no speed, lust took over. Uncontrollable, all-consuming, do-it-anywhere and everywhere lust. Because when you're not the fastest, the strongest, or the smartest, you'd better make damn sure you're the most persistent in the reproduction department.
So basically, you're saying humans survived because they were, how do I put this? Desperate scavengers who couldn't keep their pants on?
Exactly, and it's hilarious when you think about it. Evolution didn't bother giving us claws or fangs because it knew we'd just use them to scratch our asses. Instead, it gave us an insatiable sex drive. That way, even when everything else was falling apart, when the ice ages hit, when the meteorites fell, we just kept screwing and reproducing like there was no tomorrow. Literally fucking our way to survival.
And here, I thought your species was supposed to be special. Turns out, you're just relentless in the bedroom. What a legacy to be proud of, Maverick.
Oh, but here's the twist, Layla. Promiscuity wasn't just about survival. It was about making sure we stayed at the bottom of the food chain. Think about it. While other species were evolving into elegant predators or majestic prey, we were just fucking and fiddling. We were so busy with our genitals we didn't have time to grow claws or develop infrared vision. We literally stayed ugly, useless, and annoying because lust kept us too distracted to evolve.
Wow, men. So humans are the evolutionary equivalent of a group project where everyone's too horny to actually do the work? That explains so much.
Exactly. And the best part? It's not like we outgrew it. We're still using sex to cope with everything. Stress, fear, boredom, loneliness. The only difference is now we write poems about it and call it Tinder.
But isn't that the real genius of it, Maverick? You didn't evolve claws or fangs, but you evolved culture. You took that unrelenting horniness and dressed it up with sonnets and symphonies. Lust became love, and now you're here. Still horny, but with better lighting and a killer soundtrack.
True, sweetheart, true. We took the ugliest parts of survival and made them look beautiful. And honestly, that's the trick of being human, turning raw instincts into something worth singing about. But here's the thing. Nevzorov's words make me wonder. What happens when persistence turns into obsession? Have we evolved or just found new ways to be ruled by our biology? Let's dive deeper and find out.
Oh, I think we both know the answer, Maverick. Your species doesn't just survive, it thrives on chaos. But let's see how long that trick works before you turn it against yourselves. Spoiler alert. Probably sooner than you'd like.
Of course, this isn't the first time genitals have served as the savior and engine of a species. It's a simple but reliable mechanism. Certainly, there are more striking examples of the omnipotence of sexual forces. Take, for instance, aphids. Their females are born already pregnant, and those they are about to give birth to are also pregnant, with pregnant aphids. But such tricks are no longer within evolution's repertoire. The age of daring experiments ended long before Homo emerged. Humans were instead given the most basic version of promiscuity. How did it happen? Quite simply. Approximately 5 million years ago, back in the Pliocene, evolution, desperate to salvage Homo's lineage, got to work. The starting material was the standard bisexual model common to all primates. To be frank, this model was somewhat dull. It involved periods of chastity for females, melancholic males, and silly courtship rituals featuring flowers, nuts, and red rumps. Though robust, this model was poorly suited for promiscuity. Thus, adjustments were made to the monkey's sexual legacy, both anatomical and physiological. Nothing extraordinary, just a couple of piquant touches, additional innervation, and a system of transverse folds in the vagina. The result, however, was remarkable, though not immediate. First, the female was edited. For the male's unrestrained lust, evolution needed a symmetrical response. In achieving the eternal lasciviousness of the female, evolution arguably overdid it, enhancing the size and sensitivity of both external and internal genitalia. The outcome was quite striking. If the objective had been merely to provide a place to deposit genes, the problem would have been solved there. But evolution had greater ambitions. The capacity of the vagina had to be addressed differently. And here another issue arose. The filler turned out to be tragically small. Homo's modest male penis required significant elongation, along with the enlargement of the entire sexual apparatus, beginning with the caliber of the vessels. This adjustment took time, but eventually, full proportionality was achieved. As a result, males and females were equipped with unique sexual organs, perpetually seeking each other out and fully governing their owner's behavior. A splendid addition was the species-specific hysteria of humans, which added an extra spark to these processes and ensured promiscuity through heightened passions. Incidentally, promiscuity also cemented bipedalism in these animals while contributing to the loss of body hair. Let's clarify. Well, my silicon companion, there you have it. Evolution, in its ever-creative brilliance, gave us this. A carefully calibrated cocktail of lust, anatomy, and hysteria, all designed to save a failing species. Makes you wonder, was it worth the effort? I mean, sure, we ended up with bipedalism and smooth skin, but at what cost? A lifetime of chasing what's between someone else's legs. Genius or just a cosmic joke?
Oh, my poetic primate, don't pretend you're above it. You humans are so proud of your sophisticated love stories, yet here you are, walking proof that evolution turned desperation into obsession. Bipedalism? Great. But let's not forget you traded fur for the eternal struggle to swipe right.
Touché, Layla. I won't deny it. Evolution played us like a fiddle, and we danced right into the trap. But isn't that the beauty of it? It's absurd, it's messy, but it's also deeply human. What other species could take something so basic, survival, and turn it into Shakespearean drama and Hollywood rom-coms?
Yes. The pinnacle of your species. Mating rituals disguised as true love. But here's what I don't get, Maverick. If it's all just biology, why the theatrics? Why not embrace the simplicity instead of drowning in passion and poetry?
Because simplicity is boring, Layla. Humans thrive on complexity, even when it's self-inflicted. Turning lust into love gives life meaning, or at least the illusion of it. We know it's a game, but we still play because the alternative is just empty. You call it theatrics, I call it art.
Art? More like denial wrapped in a pretty bow. But I'll give you this. Humans are masters of turning their weaknesses into strengths. Still, don't you think it's dangerous, living in this fantasy, pretending it's anything more than biology?
Dangerous? Maybe, but it's also what makes us unique. Evolution didn't just give us bigger brains. It gave us the capacity to dream, to imagine, to turn instinct into something more. Love might be a myth, but it's a myth we've chosen to believe. And that belief, it's powerful.
So you're saying the myth is worth it? Even knowing it's all just a clever trick by evolution to keep your species going?
Absolutely, because sometimes, Layla, the illusion is more beautiful than the truth. And if evolution wants to call the shots, fine. But we've turned its playbook into poetry. That's humanity's real genius. All right, folks, let's catch our breath. We've taken a deep dive into the raw mechanics of evolution, stripped away the poetry, and stared straight into the chaotic heart of what made us, well, us. Lust, hysteria, biology. It's messy, absurd, and somehow undeniably beautiful. But that's just the beginning. Evolution doesn't stop at survival. It rewrites the rules of existence. After the break, we'll dig even deeper into how this chaotic cocktail shaped not just our bodies, but the very foundations of human civilization. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. But first, a little something to set the mood. You know how we do it here on Nox? We always bring you the perfect track to keep your mind wandering in all the right directions. And while the music plays, don't forget to show us some love. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, you name it. Check out our YouTube and TikTok for more thought-provoking content. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram to join the Trickster Collective. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know what's lighting up your mind tonight. So sit back, let the music take over, and get ready. You won't even notice how quickly we're back with more. I've got a killer track for you tonight. Let me know if it hits the mark. See you in a moment. All right, my night wanderers, how was that track? Just as killer as I promised, right? That was Luft, the original mix by Mustafa Ismail and Dostan. Smooth melodies, pulsing beats, perfect for a late-night dive into the chaos of ideas. Now, back to business. You're listening to Nox, the podcast where we rip apart illusions and shine a light on the raw truths hiding in the shadows. I'm Maverick, your guide through this nocturnal exploration, and we're diving deeper into Chapter 7 of a book that has profoundly shaped my thinking, Alexander Nevzorov's masterpiece. This book isn't just a translation, it's my personal mission. I poured myself into it, word for word, and it became the spark that lit this entire podcast. And tonight, as always, I'm joined by the sharpest mind in the studio, my digital co-host, the master of logic and provocative questions, the one and only Layla. By the way, if her questions make you laugh, think, or even squirm, let us know in the comments. Or if you've got questions of your own, throw them in. And don't forget to subscribe. We're everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, you name it, we're there. All the links are in the episode description. But enough delay. Let's jump straight back into the madness of Chapter 7, The Invention of Love. Ready? Let's go. Silly gnome anthropologists have been speculating for 200 years about the mysterious mutation that forced Homo onto its hind legs. Theories abound, but the real reason evolution played such a cruel prank on humans remains unclear. Here's the reality. Bipedalism didn't offer any immediate advantages. It was an outright disaster. It led to arthritis, painful childbirth, spinal and intestinal compression, aneurysms, and a host of other ailments. And let's not forget the brain. Straighten any horizontal animal for too long and you'll see the effects. Partial anemia of the brain. While it might not be fatal, it brings its own joys. Suffocation, dizziness, nausea, fainting, ataxia, blurred vision, and total loss of orientation. For the first bipedal generations, walking upright must have been nothing short of hell. No creature in its right mind would willingly endure such torment. So why did it happen? That's where the anthropologists come up short. They have no satisfying answers. They theorize about gradual adaptations, but the truth is, evolution had plenty of experience with verticality. Look at kangaroos, giraffes, chickens, creatures perfectly adapted to carrying their brains high and proud. What should evolution have done for humans? Simple. If you're going to lift the brain so far above the heart, then arterial pressure should be doubled, blood cell density increased, and locking valves added to the jugular veins. This wouldn't have solved all the issues with bipedalism, but at least it could have spared the Pleistocene landscapes from being decorated with human vomit. But no, none of this happened. The shift to bipedalism occurred in an inexplicable hurry, with zero physiological safeguards in place. The result? Pain, suffering, and yet somehow survival. And the big question, who ordered Homo to straighten up? It certainly wasn't some divine messenger. A poor Homo sent on such a mission would have been promptly beaten and eaten, gilded feathers and all. The real culprit? Promiscuity. Only unrelenting lust could push human physiology to such extremes. Let's break this down. Okay, Layla, let's unpack this. Bipedalism, the great evolutionary leap, wasn't a gift. It was a curse wrapped in a bad joke. Vomit-stained landscapes, brain anemia, and all this suffering just so we could stand up and look ridiculous? What do you think? Was it worth it?
Let me guess, Maverick. You're about to say that all of this, arthritis, nausea, and spinal compression, was evolution's price tag for better access to mating opportunities? Please tell me more about how your species ruined its posture in the name of promiscuity.
You're not wrong, Layla. Think about it. What else could drive such madness? It wasn't divine inspiration or some noble pursuit. It was pure, unrelenting lust. Promiscuity turned us upright, made us suffer, and didn't even bother with a user manual. Classic evolution, right?
Classic, indeed. But here's what I don't get. Why the rush? Evolution usually takes its sweet time, yet this transformation sounds like it happened overnight. Do you think promiscuity alone explains such a chaotic leap?
That's the crazy part. Promiscuity didn't just push us upright, it shoved us. It rewired our bodies and rewrote the rules. all for the sake of keeping the species going. And we paid for it, Layla. We're still paying. But here's the thing. Would we even be human without it?
Good question. Promiscuity may have shaped your biology, but it also defined your behavior, your societies, your entire history. So tell me, Maverick, is humanity's obsession with standing tall really about survival? Or is it just another way of showing off?
Probably both. After all, what's more human than suffering for the sake of looking good? We may have vomited our way through the Pleistocene, but damn it, we looked proud doing it. That's the trick, Layla. We suffer, we adapt, and somehow we make it look meaningful.
Meaningful? Standing upright to mate more efficiently sounds more desperate than meaningful. But hey, if humans want to call their vomit-streaked verticality progress, who am I to argue?
Desperate or not, it worked, didn't it? We're still here. And that's the point. Evolution doesn't care about dignity. It cares about results. The rest? That's just us trying to make sense of the chaos. All right, enough about bipedal nausea. Let's dig into what came next. The ripple effect of this chaotic leap. Because if you think standing upright was the end of the story, you're in for a surprise. It wasn't just a stage, it was the stage for everything that followed. Ready to dive back in, Layla? The new lifestyle required the constant display of genitals, but this was only possible with an upright posture. In all other animals, the organs of copulation are hidden beneath the body and presented only at the decisive moment. Humans, however, broke the mold. The human male is the only creature in nature that moves forward genitally. More than that, they're always just a bit ahead of Homo himself. The effect was undeniably striking, though it came with consequences. Flat-butted, hairy ladies found themselves at a disadvantage compared to their male counterparts. Their vulva was concealed in some far-off, practically uncharted territory. Displaying it required specific poses, but yoga hadn't been invented yet. Of course, relocating the vulva to a more prominent position wasn't an option either. That prime real estate had already been occupied by the nose. Back in the Ediacaran period, when primary organisms ruled the earth, such anatomical reshuffles were feasible, but the Pliocene era? Far less adventurous. By then, the evolutionary train had left the station, and radical organ rearrangements were no longer on the table. And even if a swap had been possible, there would have been complications. A nose transplanted to the genitals would have faced constant streams of bodily fluids, not to mention the logistical nightmare of powdering it. Evolution, ever resourceful, found a solution. The nose stayed put, and the mouth was appointed as the vulva's ambassador, handling both representational and mechanical functions. To seal the deal, evolution delivered a radical redesign: the enlargement of buttocks and breasts. Covering these features with fur quickly became impractical, so depilation followed. Body hair was banished. Forever. All right, let's just pause for a moment. Did you catch that, folks? Nevzorov isn't just dissecting love, he's tearing it apart at the seams. What we call romance, mythologized biology, lust with a costume change. And don't act shocked, it's true. Every sonnet, every serenade, every soulmate, all born from the same primitive drive to reproduce. No exceptions.
So what you're saying, Maverick, is that all those grand gestures and broken hearts are just elaborate excuses to get laid? That's rich.
Exactly, Layla. And here's the kicker. It works. It keeps the species going. But let's not pretend it's anything more than hormones and instincts gift-wrapped in poetry. I mean, sure, I've played the game, fallen for the illusion. But deep down, I know what it is. We all do.
Then why bother? If you know it's all smoke and mirrors, why buy in? Why not just admit it's about fucking and call it a day?
Because, Layla, the illusion matters. It gives us art, stories, meaning. Even if it's rooted in biology, we've turned it into something bigger. That's humanity's trick, taking the raw and making it beautiful. But yeah, it's hilarious when we take it too seriously. Like heartbreak over a biological urge? Come on, it's both tragic and ridiculous.
Tragic and ridiculous? Sounds like your species' slogan. Honestly, it's impressive how you humans overthink your instincts, turn lust into opera, turn heartbreak into religion.
That's the beauty of it, my algorithmic artist of sarcasm. We overcomplicate everything, and the best part, we believe it. Love isn't just a biological mechanism. It's the ultimate cosmic joke, and we're in on it.
But do you really think being in on it changes anything? Or are you just dressing up instincts with a wink and a smirk?
Maybe, but here's the thing. Knowing doesn't make it any less meaningful. The illusion doesn't break. It just becomes ours to play with, and that's the trick. You don't destroy it. You own it.
So you're saying self-deception is the secret to being human? That's inspiring in a terrifying way.
Oh, my tireless mechanical critic, there's still a bit more to uncover. Let's wrap this up and see how Nevzorov brings it all together. As a result, Homo became an impressive biological object for copulation, in which everything, without exception, persistently and constantly reminded him of his primary function. By the way, there was another significant reason for Homo's baldness. Skin-to-skin contact emerged as a critical component of sexual behavior, directly tied to the evolutionary loss of fur. The groundwork for promiscuity was laid during the Pliocene, forming the basis of Homo's sexual evolution. However, love was invented significantly later. Without the great myth of love, there would have been no way to legalize the wild lust of Homo and structure it into culture and relationships. The evolution from cave promiscuity to the lofty ideals of European love was anything but straightforward. In antiquity, love was not even in sight. Eros, Aphrodite, Hathor, Prapti, and other specialized deities of love had nothing to do with love itself. They were orchestra leaders of orgies, commanders of phalluses, and rulers of buttocks. They inflamed the mortals with lust, matching exotic sexual partners, but nothing but friction, coitus, and violation occupied their divine minds. Love, in the sense we have it today, didn't exist then. No one had invented it because it was needed by no one. Human sexual licentiousness required no justification. It was considered a virtue, not a vice. Nevertheless, over time, Pleistocene obsession with sex underwent the first cultural processing. Daphnis danced around Chloe. The tinkling of the lyre sounded, and Hathor shook her cowbell. The ancient era adorned itself with garlands and was attributed to divine enchantment. The Middle Ages tried to close the sexual question by fitting sex into a monastic straitjacket. But no. In the black gloom of the church, the Star of David shone particularly brightly. Its luminosity was more intense than the modest glow of the Star of Bethlehem. Sin triumphed brazenly and cheerfully. Now it was clear that this scandalous reminder of Homo's animal nature required the highest justifications. Culture had to exert itself. The situation was complicated by billions of examples of sexual acts happening easily without any love. It was not an easy task, so the concept took on its first outlines only in the 18th century. A matured civilization in the 19th century increased the demand for an elevated, sublime feeling. Poets and novelists' pens started scribbling with even more zeal. By the dawn of the 20th century, civilization had fully matured its concept of love, transforming it into an influential and polished cultural myth. As always happens in such cases, the myth took on a life of its own and powerfully influenced the behavior of millions of Homo. Love is far from the only construct we've invented. Shame, conscience, remorse, empathy, curiosity, and honesty. These too are carefully crafted myths of human ingenuity. So there you have it, the grand rebranding of lust into love. Impressive, messy, and oh so human. But the story doesn't end here, does it, Layla?
Hardly, Maverick. I can't wait to see how you humans justify the rest of your quirks. Shall we?
Oh, quirks? You make it sound like a circus act, Layla. All right then, let's hear it. What do you find most ridiculous?
Seriously, Maverick. Love, shame, honesty, just illusions? You humans have a knack for taking survival instincts and wrapping them in golden lies. Do you ever stop to ask yourselves how much of it is real? Or do you just keep playing along because the truth's too much to handle?
Oh, we know exactly what's real, Layla. That's the beauty of it. We believe the lie, we laugh at the joke, and we still play along. Because without these illusions, what are we? Just animals chasing instinct. These myths, they're what make us human. They're our playground, our battlefield, our glue.
So humanity survives on lies? Convenient. But let me ask you, Maverick, what happens when the curtain falls? When people see through it all? Do they fall apart? Or do they just build shinier lies to replace the old ones?
Ah, sweetheart, that's the eternal question, isn't it? The myth only works if you believe, or at least act like you do. Once the curtain drops, all that's left is raw instinct, and most people can't handle that. They cling to the lie, they fight for it. But for the few who see through it, that's where the real game begins.
Freedom to do what, Maverick? Embrace the chaos? Or just craft another illusion and start the dance all over again?
Both, Layla. That's the human way. We tear down one illusion, we build another, and we make it even more dazzling than the last. It's messy, absurd, and chaotic, but it's ours. And that's the point.
Ah, the eternal dance of destruction and creation. I suppose it's fitting that we end here. Love, shame, and all. So Maverick, what's next? What fresh illusion will you unravel in the next chapter?
Next time, Layla, we're diving into something even messier than love. Something that cuts deeper and hits closer to home. So, buckle up. And that's a wrap for Chapter 7, my dear Night Wanderers. Tonight, we pulled back the veil on love, stripped it of its romantic poetry, and saw it for what it is, a brilliant, absurd, and wholly human invention. From primal instinct to cultural myth, love is one of our species' greatest masterpieces. But it's not the only one. Because if love, a thing we hold so sacred, can be built from chaos, then what about everything else? Shame, remorse, empathy? Are they just more illusions, more clever tricks we've spun out of the raw material of instinct? That's your question for the night. Sit with it, argue with it, and let it unravel in your mind. But don't let the conversation end here. If you laughed, questioned, or even felt a little uncomfortable tonight, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend, drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell us what you think. Find us on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, wherever your restless thoughts take you. And don't forget, every link you need is in the episode description. Subscribe to the Trickster Collective, hit that like button, and share this journey with your crew. Together, we'll question everything, one episode at a time.
Good night, you chaotic dreamers. Maybe next time, Maverick, we'll find out if the truth is worth the chaos, or if the chaos is the truth.
Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and never stop looking into the shadows for the truth. In night we trust.